All right, we'll go to item 10, conduct of business. The first item is receive an oral report on the city's participation in the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, investigative hearing held in Washington, D.C. last week, March 1st to the 3rd, 2011. And I'll begin with Connie.
Great. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, actually the previous public comment speaker provides actually a nice lead-in to the comments that I wanted to make tonight, and that was just to give a basic overview of the hearing itself. The two council members who attended as well will have some comments in addition. But I think that the most important thing was that our presence at this important hearing was intended to give a face, if you will, and provide the representation to the community of San Bruno that was so devastatingly affected by the incident that is now being studied in a very methodical and kind of almost dry way with this public hearing and other investigative activities. I was particularly pleased to see that the opening remarks provided both by the chairperson, who, the lady in the blue in the picture that you're seeing right now, as well as the lead investigator, a gentleman by the name of Ravi Chatre, both of their comments that provided introduction to the hearing itself did actually give a very complete and I would say compassionate and true overview of the event itself, the incident that so dramatically affected our community. And I think that framed the discussion and gave life to the fact that this was really about something that doesn't just have scientific, technical, or operational issues, ramifications, but really has truly and profoundly and forever affected a community and the lives of so many people. The hearing itself was an overview of, in detail. It occurred over a 2.5-day period and dived into a number of different areas that I'm going to touch on just very briefly in the hopes that it might spur some interest among persons in the community who might not have already had a chance to take a look at the hearing proceedings themselves. The first half day was about PG&E operations and covered some of the issues related to the incident itself and what was going on at the Milpitas Control Center, how the SCADA system, the electronic operational system was working, and how PG&E manages its system and this type of or incidents, emergency incidents. The afternoon focused on PG&E's integrity management and covered issues primarily related to inspection, maintenance, and operation of the pipeline infrastructure itself. Day two it covered in the morning a panel of witnesses that provided expertise in the area of public awareness. And it was at this time that our Fire Chief, Dennis Haig, participated as a witness on the panel and received and responded to questions related to what residents of San Bruno might have known about the existence of the pipeline, how it was operated and maintained. In general terms, and he didn't respond to these questions, but other panel members took questions related to federal and state regulations about public information related to pipelines and their hazards, their potential hazards, and how those were implemented by PG&E both prior to and since the incident in San Bruno. Day number two in the afternoon focused on a panel of state and federal regulators from the California Public Utilities Commission and from the National Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration. That panel focused on regulations that pertain to the type of infrastructure system that PG&E operates, how it's operated, how it's maintained and inspected, and detailed some of the federal regulations, and again, how do those pertain to the situation that's under investigation. Lastly, a half day was spent on the technologies of inspection, exciting new opportunities for new tools to be available to the industry, and the industry perspective about the inspection, maintenance, and operation of pipelines, particularly high-pressure pipelines such as we have here in San Bruno. This public hearing is only a part. It's been described to me by one person as Act 1 of a 3-act scenario having to do with the NTSB's investigation. And so there is, as our community I think is well aware and has been very patient, this is a long, detailed, and very methodical, thorough process. I can say, coming away from this week-long experience in Washington, D.C., and attendance at the entire hearing, participation in the entire hearing, that this was not only an opportunity for the public to gain an insight or a window into the investigative process that has now been going on literally for 6 months and will likely take at least another 6 months to completion. It also contributed to the fact-finding that is a critical part of that process. There were a number of issues discussed in detail, and I think there were a number of new pieces of information that supplement the volumes of material that the NTSB has already gathered and is meticulously going through as part of its investigation. As I said, the investigation has at least another 6 to 9 months to go before it is finally complete. And I think we can be very much assured that that investigation will result in a credible conclusion that validates what happened and why it happened. It will not assign blame or liability per se, but I am quite confident, as I'm sure the two council members would agree, that this process is thorough, it is deliberative, and is intended to get straight to the heart of the many issues that need to be troubleshooted and evaluated in order to be able to determine, literally, for once and for all, what exactly happened here. And as we said many times, as we were asked what was the city's interest and why were we there, and wasn't it a substantial commitment for the city of San Bruno to be present at a hearing like this, our answer was that it was important to the city of San Bruno, to its community, to the persons who were so devastatingly affected by this incident. But our interest is that if in at least a small way we can contribute through this horrible situation to this never happening again anywhere to anybody else. With that, and let me just say, these pictures, we would like to be able to say that we took these really terrific pictures, but we obtained them from the AP, and this event was well documented. And I hope that by the pictures, residents and any interested party can see, get a little glimpse of the formality and the environment in which this hearing took place. Since I haven't stopped yet, just one more thing, and that is that the hearing in its entirety is available on the NTSB's website. It will be available for at least another couple of months at ntsb.gov. It can also be accessed through the city's website on the Glenview page through a link that's titled NTSB. And I would encourage anybody who has even a passing interest to take a look at it, because it's actually segmented very well, and you can actually go to pieces that might be of your interest, and I think it's very worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Councilmember Medina. Some words?
I think the mayor will probably say most of it, but I just wanted to, I think this is nothing that the council nor staff would ever have imagined a year ago that we would be asked, and I thought important for us to attend over in Washington, D.C., an NTSB hearing. It's something that's unprecedented, but was important, as the city manager said. And I've already said that when we were back in Washington, but I wanted to compliment the staff for all of their diligence and their hard work. This is something, again, unprecedented for us as the city of San Bruno. And I thought, once again, as the mayor would always say, as a team, we did very well in this defining moment, but once again. I also want to compliment the mayor and all of his activities and work, because obviously, as you probably saw on the TV, they wanted to speak with him quite frequently about many things. And I think our mayor represented the city well, and I think our staff provided good representation and support to us. I was very honored to represent the city of San Bruno, and I think it was a necessity for us to be present so that what happened on September the 9th has a face and an understanding, for we saw it that night, and we have lived with it ever since then. There was a moment in the hearing that there was a tape shown for about a minute and a half of the actual explosion being taped from Earl. I had not seen that. And at that moment, at least for myself and I think for the mayor, it was almost going back in time to that night, listening to it, watching it as we stood in Glenview. And it was so surreal again, almost as a flashback to that moment in time. And as odd as it was to watch it again in that scenario instead of what I did on September the 9th, it again reassured me why we were there and the importance of us being there. But it also, again, made me very proud of the city that I'm honored to be a council member of and that I've been privileged to call home my entire life. I think the whole council was there in Washington, D.C., the entire citizenry and the staff, and I think it was an effort on everybody's part that allowed us to be a part of that. And I hope, as we've all said, so that we can make changes, move forward, and ensure that no community has to face and go through what we have thus far.
Thank you. For me, thorough, non-political, very revealing testimony, and going forward, it's probably not our last trip to Washington, D.C. All of the board members expressed their deepest concern and sympathy for San Bruno and its residents, personally, each one of them. The introduction to the hearings, as Connie and Rico said, included a short but very powerful video of that evening and really set the stage for these hearings. I do want to thank City Manager Connie and her staff, especially Sergeant Caldwell and Chief Haig and Clara Fabry, for their tireless efforts in presenting our story, and also Councilmember Medina for helping me represent the human side of this story in this city. We saw an awful lot of talk about measurements and maximum operating pressures and seam wells and pup wells and all different kinds of technical things. But our focus was to keep the human side of this continuing story in the forefront and not let it get lost in all the technical discussion that we heard about pressures and equations. We emphasize very strongly that the cost of the lives we lost and the residents injured is incalculable. There was a lot of talk about cost, and we continue to remind the NTSB, the staff, as well as the other participants that I think in terms of lives, not so much money. We never want this to happen again anywhere, and that's why we have to keep it in the forefront, a national issue. As I've said to a lot of people, my greatest fear is that the hole gets filled and the street gets paved, and somebody comes up to me 4 or 5 years from now and says, didn't you guys have a fire or something in San Bruno a few years ago? And I and this council and this city will not let that happen. So this is a national issue now, as well it should be, because this unfortunate incident, this terrible tragedy, could have happened anywhere in this country. So we're there to continue helping. This is uncharted territory for us. It's another chapter in a book that we have no clue how long it's going to be, but we're here for you, and we'll continue to be here. So it was very, very worthwhile, and like I said, it's probably not our last trip back.